Well, good morning. It's good to see everybody made it through the great blizzard. It is quite seriously very heartening to see such a room full of people who obviously care deeply about their community as well as their party. My name is Paul Kashmann. I'm honored to be a candidate to represent District 6 on Denver City Council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to tell you a little bit about who I am and where I stand. It's always good to be back here at the Washington Street Community Center. You know, when I was a young man, about 26 years old, I unexpectedly found myself a sole custody, full-time single father of a 3-year-old daughter and a 10-month-old son. Shortly after beginning that phase of our life, we moved into a little bungalow on the north edge of Wash Park at 1423 East Virginia Avenue. And shortly thereafter, very fortunately, we stumbled across what was then the Washington Park Community Center, now this building, the Washington Street Community Center. And if it wasn't for the before and after school care programs, the summer camps, and other programs in support of the family, things would have been a lot more difficult for us at home. So I'm very grateful for what they brought into our house, and it's always good to be here. I was pleased to have a chance to give back to the center a little bit later on, serving on the board for a couple of years, and was honored to receive the center's Jane Craft Award as a Good Neighbor of the Year a few years back, and through that bring in some dough to help with the seniors and children's programs that go on here. I've been a resident of District 6 for the better part of 40 years, the last 22 of which was spent in the 1200 block of South Elm Street over in Virginia Village. I have, for the past 36 years, up until 2 weeks ago today, been publisher of the Washington Park Profile newspaper. In my, thank you very much, and I think you'll be applauding for the new publisher as well. She's going to be great. But in my role as a journalist, I spent a lot of years focused intently on the issues, the important issues and events of relevance to the businesses and residents of District 6, as well as the districts that surround us. And in my capacity as a small businessman, I'm very familiar with the challenges and what it takes to meet budget and make payroll and keep the doors open through good times and bad so people have a place to go to work and have a paycheck to bring home to the family. I believe that Denver is a great place to live. People come to different cities for different reasons, and I believe the reason people come to Denver, and certainly the reason people stay here, is because this is a great place to live. And I think it's critical that we maintain that Denver remain a great place to live, and every policy that I consider and every project that I review will be viewed through that lens of how does this contribute to Denver remaining a great place to live. As far as the issues go, you know, I've spoken forcefully. Let's put it this way. I mean, it's very important that you know where a candidate stands. There's no question about that. But I think it may be even more important when you're considering electing someone to office to consider where have they been standing. I've been standing for 40 years consistently and forcefully in support of the neighborhoods of District 6 and the greater South Denver area. I've spoken out forcefully for measured growth and neighborhood preservation when out-of-control development has threatened the integrity of the area. I've waved the flag for small business when it seemed that all our city's interested in doing is to bring in mega projects, partially financed with incentives based on the tax dollars brought in by our small businesses. I fought for historic preservation when our important assets were threatened, and I sounded the alarm for environmental remediation when our communities have found the ground poisoned underneath them. These are not new approaches or new policies that I hope to put into effect on City Council. These are not new programs. This is just an example of the sustained focus and commitment to District 6 that I've demonstrated over the past 40 years. And it's that same focus that I intend to bring to City Council. I ask for your vote if you're residents of District 6. And I look forward to hearing your questions. Yes.
Well, what I hear you saying is your approach is completely, well, not completely, but diametrically opposed to the outgoing councilman in terms of development. How do you expect to get the vote of those people? Do you think that the time is right now to cut back on this giveaway of tax revenue and the density problems? Don't get me wrong, I feel it is, but I'm wondering, how do you feel you're going to get those constituents to vote for you?
I don't know that I will. I just hope to get one more person to vote for me than votes for my opponent. That's the key to this deal.
That's good.
I'm a great guy, I'm a bright guy, I'm capable, I can engage in discussion, but not everybody's going to like what I have to say on every issue. And I'm not against the tax increment financing where it's appropriate. I mean, it is part of the game to bring important businesses into Denver. You know, I'm a little bit different, I think. I'm quite different than my opponent in my approach to campaign financing. I've committed to not taking PAC dollars. I've committed to not taking what I describe as faceless dollars. You know, I had an extensive conversation with the folks from Clean Slate Denver, who was an organization founded by a personal hero, Ken Gordon. A lot of you knew. He was the person who first made me aware of the danger of money in politics. You know, and what I explained is, you know, I'm a small business person. I understand how complicated running a small business can be. If I receive a check from a dry cleaner that happens to be a corporation, I'm going to take it because I know the guy who signed the check. You know, there's a difference in levels on those things. And the other thing, and I don't want to get hung up on campaign financing, but for me, not taking PAC money and special interest is kind of like a duh. Okay, it's just my approach to it. It's a given for me. But it's only the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I'm fortunate enough, and my opponent, I believe, is fortunate enough to know enough people to have a crapshoot at raising enough money to run an election. Most people, we probably eliminate 80% of the populace from running for office because they don't know enough people to gather the dough. So, yeah.
Especially with zoning and some traffic planning that the city council does, do you think there's enough hearing time for neighbors, for constituents? Is there enough transparency in the decision process, and how might you change that?
Is there enough
transparency in the process of considering?
I don't know that I have a particular view of that, other than to say, for me, I think the government governs best that is wide open. All parties come to the table on matters of substance. As far as transportation specifically?
Zoning, transportation,
oh, sure.
Neighborhood preservation.
Sure. Is there enough time? I sometimes watch the council meetings and think that people are cut off too quickly. I sometimes watch the council meetings and think that I can't see how the council members are sitting that late into the night in the discussion. I think it has to be, you're going to have to draw limits somewhere, but I'd be in favor of a little bit more flexibility in public hearings. I've heard suggestions that perhaps at the beginning of council meetings, having a little bit of extra time for whatever, you know, maybe there's 20 extra minutes at every meeting where it's just open season, talk about whatever you want to talk about. Yes, sir.
Would you have supported the?
I think we're gonna run out of time here. I'm sorry.
Can I
Sorry.
just answer his question, please? I'll do it
Well,
quickly.
you might not get a vote.
I'm sorry, you'll have to take it after.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.